After saving a dog's puppy, a man is surrounded by the pride, and what they do is shocking. It was a crisp morning when Jake, a man who loved nothing more than a quiet hike in the woods, found himself deeper in the forest than usual. With each step, the sounds of the world fell away, replaced by the peaceful rustling of leaves and the occasional bird call. He'd been hiking for hours, alone in his thoughts, when something unusual caught his attention. A faint, desperate whimper echoed through the trees. Jake froze. It wasn't the sound of a typical forest animal. It was a cry of distress. His heart raced as he followed the noise, wondering what could be in trouble. As he moved closer, he noticed a small figure crouching in the underbrush. A dog, panting heavily, eyes wide with fear, was huddled protectively over something. Jake's instincts kicked in. He approached slowly, careful not to startle the animal. The dog, a shepherd mix, growled low in her throat, her eyes never leaving him as he got closer. But there was something else in her gaze, desperation. Jake's heart went out to her. There, curled up on the ground, was a tiny puppy, trembling and whimpering. The dog's protective stance told him everything he needed to know. She was guarding her pup from something or someone. Jake knew he had to act fast, but he also understood that approaching a protective mother dog wasn't something to take lightly. He stopped a few feet away, kneeling to show that he meant no harm. His voice was soft and calm as he spoke to her, hoping she would sense his good intentions. "It's okay, girl. I'm not here to hurt you." The dog growled. Again, but this time, the growl was less threatening. She shifted her weight, eyes never leaving Jake as she continued to guard her pup. He slowly extended a hand, his fingers open, showing her he wasn't a threat. Minutes felt like hours as he stayed in that position, keeping his movements slow and steady. The dog's gaze softened just a fraction, and that was enough. Without warning, she stepped aside slightly, her body still tense, but no longer fully defensive. Jake took the opportunity. He carefully scooped up the tiny puppy, holding it gently but firmly in his arms. The puppy's fur was damp from the forest floor, and it trembled uncontrollably, its tiny body a stark contrast to the large, protective mother. Jake's heart clenched. He could see the fear in the puppy's eyes, but there was also hope. "It's all right, little one," Jake whispered, trying to reassure the fragile creature in his arms. The mother dog didn't move, watching closely as Jake held her pup. He slowly stood, his eyes never leaving her, making sure she felt no threat from him. For a moment, everything was still. As Jake stood there, cradling the tiny puppy in his arms, a strange feeling washed over him. The forest, once peaceful, now felt charged with something different. The air grew heavier, and Jake's senses began to tingle, as if 1,000 eyes were watching him from the shadows. He shifted uneasily, scanning the trees around him. That's when he heard it, the sound of movement. The rustle of leaves, soft yet deliberate. Then, out of nowhere, a figure emerged from the dense underbrush. A large dog, sleek and muscular, its coat shining with the golden hues of the setting sun. It was a German shepherd, its eyes sharp, filled with purpose. Jake froze, his heart rate quickening. The dog stood still, watching him intently, its gaze unwavering. It wasn't just any dog. This one had the air of authority. Then, as if on cue, more dogs began to emerge. One after another, they appeared from the shadows, surrounding Jake in a perfect circle. Each one was a striking German shepherd, their eyes glowing with the same intense focus. He realized with a jolt that he wasn't just surrounded by dogs. These were no ordinary animals. They were a pride, a group united by something deeper than just protection. Their movements were synchronized, their presence overwhelming, and Jake knew that at that moment, his fate rested in their paws. The leader, the first dog who had appeared, stepped forward. Its eyes locked onto Jake's, studying him with an intensity that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Jake's breath caught in his throat as the leader of the pride slowly closed the distance between them. The dogs around him, once tense and alert, now seemed to be waiting for something, an answer, a signal. The pride leader's eyes remained locked on Jake, as if it could read the very depths of his soul. Jake instinctively took a small step back, but the dogs didn't budge. They were too composed, too synchronized. Every movement they made seemed deliberate, each one a silent statement of control. His mind raced. Should he try to back away slowly? Or stay still and hope for the best? Then, in a shocking turn of events, the leader of the Pride didn't lunge at him, as Jake had feared. Instead, it stopped just a few feet away and tilted its head, studying him with curiosity. The tension in Jake's chest began to loosen slightly, but his nerves were still on edge. The dogs didn't seem to be threatening him at all. They were observing, as if assessing him. Suddenly, one of the other dogs broke rank and cautiously approached Jake. It sniffed the air around him, then moved closer to his outstretched hand. Jake's heart skipped a beat. This was unlike anything he'd ever seen. The other dogs, still surrounding him, seemed to watch this interaction carefully, their eyes focused on every movement Jake made. And then, as if recognizing something, the leader gave a low, rumbling growl, almost as if in approval. Jake was stunned. He had no idea what was happening, but he couldn't deny that something profound was unfolding before him. Jake stood still, his heart pounding in his chest. As the leader of the Pride circled him, every movement of the dogs felt like it was choreographed, like they were a single entity, calm, purposeful, and undeniably powerful. He could feel the weight of their gaze on him, the pressure building as if they were making some sort of judgment. But instead of lunging at him, as he feared, the leader stopped in front of him and stared. In that moment, everything seemed to freeze. Jake wasn't sure whether to speak, to move, or to hold his breath. The dogs around him remained completely silent, all eyes fixed on the leader. Then, without warning, the leader took a step forward and placed a large, powerful paw gently on Jake's chest. It wasn't an attack. It was a gesture of something deeper, something Jake couldn't quite understand. The touch sent a shiver down Jake's spine. The strength in that one simple motion was overwhelming, yet it wasn't meant to harm. It was almost as if the leader was showing him respect. In a single, unexpected act, the Pride had acknowledged him, not as an outsider, but as one of their own. Jake blinked, his mind racing to make sense of what was happening. The Pride wasn't just a group of wild animals. They were a community, a family, bound by loyalty and trust. And in that moment, they had decided to offer him the same. As if on cue, one of the other dogs approached, gently taking the puppy from Jake's arms and carrying it back to its mother. The Pride leader, still watching, gave a low, satisfied grunt before stepping back, leading the pack away. Jake stood in the quiet forest, still trying to process everything that had just happened. The Pride, once a terrifying presence, had revealed something incredible, a bond of trust and respect he never expected. He had come across a distressed dog and her puppy, only intending to help. But in return, the animals had shown him a loyalty he could never have imagined. As the pack disappeared into the trees, Jake let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. His heart still raced, but now it was filled with awe. He had been surrounded by the wild, not as a threat, but as someone worthy of their trust. The dogs had made him part of something ancient, something primal, and yet something profoundly beautiful. Jake had always believed in the deep connections between humans and animals, but this experience took that belief to a new level. He didn't know why the Pride had chosen to trust him, but he was forever changed by it. The world suddenly felt different, more connected. As he slowly made his way back home, Jake couldn't help but smile. He'd saved a puppy, but in the process, he had been saved as well, by a pack of wild dogs who had shown him that kindness is a language understood by all.